Hello everyone, welcome to Romance Unzipped. I'm Holly.
Hey, I'm Annie.
Today we are reviewing Holding Out for a Holiday Hero by Cynthia Eden.
Yes, this is your perfect holiday. I'm traveling, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed. People at the airport are making too much noise. I need to escape. Under 200-page book.
Yes, little novella, getting in the Christmas spirit. This is a dual point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Third person past tense. It's a male
Yeah.
female.
Yep, Jake Hale and
True Blakely. And I think the steam level, I'd put it maybe at a 3.
Uh-huh.
It was explicit, it wasn't closed door, but it wasn't a very detailed book in the sex scenes.
It's like a heavy PG-13. No, sorry. It's more like a R.
Yeah, I
Rated
wouldn't.
R.
I don't know about maybe like PG-15.
Yeah, let's just say rated R.
Okay, rated R.
Because they definitely have sex.
Right.
And she definitely sucks him off. And he goes down on her.
Yeah, no,
On a rug
they
in
do
front
all
of
the
a
things. It's just the scenes are relatively short and not too detailed.
Yeah,
But they're
kind of
there.
Playful.
And the setting is a small town about 80 miles outside of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the characters and their backstories take place in the big city, but all the book takes place in this smaller town vibe.
Mm-hmm. And this is their high school. They knew each other in high school, and so they both have their own narratives of who the other person was in high school, but they both, of course,
They both had crushes on each other.
Yeah.
And they both kind of thought the other one was like way too cool or way too
Yeah.
good or whatever for them. So they never even really talked or knew each other in high school.
So this is just evidence that if you felt like your high school crush was a dick to you, it was actually because he was in love with you and he was too shy.
Yeah, that's an important message to teach young women. If you're treated poorly by men, it's because they like you. So the tropes in this book, it's a
age-old lesson.
Yeah, it's a murder mystery, and he's a bounty hunter.
I know, that's kind of a fun, like, random twist.
It is, although he's not doing any bounty hunting in this book.
There's no bounce.
She came in saying, "Oh, I need your help. Nobody trusts me. Like, I feel unsafe." And then shortly thereafter, somebody winds up dead in her house, and it's evidence that she really was being stalked and followed, and something is amiss. So he has agreed to help her, but he doesn't usually protect people and solve mysteries. Usually, he runs after folks that have skipped on bail.
And
there is a one-bed trope.
Oh, of course there's a one-bed trope.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I always like those.
Yeah.
And he is...
And a bad news ex.
Sure, bad news ex. Jake, the main man, is grumpy and broody and taciturn and all of those great qualities in a male lead in a romance novel. But it also has that trope going on of the guy that doesn't have any holiday spirit.
Oh, he's a total Grinch.
Mm-hmm. He specifically, like the trauma from his childhood and the fact that he grew up poor, it's all kind of solidified in his brain as, I hate Christmas. Because Christmas is the time when, because we were poor, we could tell that we weren't like everyone else and we didn't get to do these like fun traditions and my mom had to work extra hard.
Yeah.
So it all comes out in like, no, I never get a Christmas tree and I never sing.
Grump.
So, of course, as he falls in love with this woman who
Good old True
is a big Christmas spirit lady.
She's a decorator, guys.
Mm-hmm. Then
you know the type.
He starts to have these thoughts of like, oh, that really was nice. And
I'll get her a tree.
Right. We'll decorate it together for her.
The carols.
So.
Well, okay, so what do they look like?
Interestingly, neither character's skin color were mentioned in this book.
Yeah, but he's the opening scene, which I always kind of like. And the opening scene starts with her bursting into his office, and he's thinking it's this fantasy because she's his dream girl. And she has long dark hair and big blue eyes. I think she's 5'5", and she's beautiful.
She's so beautiful.
Luscious lips.
She was the homecoming queen in high school.
The good girl. She was too good for me, but she smells like strawberries.
Oh yeah, she smells like strawberries. I can picture that scent on a 16-year-old high school girl.
But she's stuck true.
But yeah, it's endured, and that seems less appealing to me. Like that kind of rainbow bright, like, or the My Little Pony. Remember what My Little Ponies smelled like?
It reminds me of the Bed Bath & Beyond.
Yeah,
or what's that called? Bath & Body?
Bath & Body Works.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, you walk in and it's just like every scent in the world.
Yes, that is kind of the vibe I got out of her, which did sound like it would cause a crush in a 16-year-old boy.
Yeah.
I'm with them with that part.
Yeah. Strawberry heart on.
But oh, good, I like that.
That's an
But-
interesting line.
But now in present day, when they're both in their, well, I want to say early 30s, they didn't give exact ages, but based on the fact that they've got backstories and lives, it feels a little bit like a strange smell to still be carrying around.
She really committed to the shampoo.
She did commit, and he's into it. He
Yeah,
says
that's it.
even now strawberries are his favorite food because it smells like her, and he still has a strawberry heart on for her.
He has a strawberry heart on for her. So that's her, and actually, and then he is 6'3".
Mm-hmm.
He has a 10-pack.
She does. She described him as a 10-pack, and I didn't know that was anatomically possible.
There's a lot.
I'm not sure what all of those different packs are.
Yeah.
I think some of them
She's
are
like,
abs.
This is a hernia.
Yeah, I've got a sports hernia over here. Yeah, this muscle was pulled and never healed right. But he's very muscular. He's so muscular. You've never even heard of all these.
And he's covered in, well, once he gets naked, then we see he's got a lot of cuts and scars. And he was special ops in the military for years. So he's this, like, very strong, badass. But in his brain, he's like, I'm just a predator and I just hunt people. And so he doesn't have any qualms about his service in the military, but more he has this idea of himself as this kind of like lone wolf warrior predator bad guy. I don't remember what color his hair is. I don't know if she even described.
No, she just says he's got dark eyes and of course a strong jawline.
Yeah,
gotta have that. And he's quite scarred up from, what did he say? He's been shot several times and he's got stab wounds,
explosions. He's been through it.
He really had a tough time. Yeah, he was like, oh, I wasn't just in the military, I was special ops.
Yeah, and then he goes, no one knows what I did because it will always be classified. We're like, okay, JKL, we get it.
Yeah, all right, calm down, buddy. And now he's a bounty hunter, which is also more badassery, I guess. I don't really know what that entails.
I don't either. It's like really limited to this pop culture reality TV show, which is probably an insult to bounty hunters everywhere.
But luckily there aren't that many bounty hunters, right?
Yeah.
The only bounty hunters I really know of are from, like, I mean, not that I know them, but like the 1800 Wild Wild West.
Oh.
But that's not him.
This
is contemporary. So
it kind of, so she bursts into his office. He's sitting there thinking about how much he hates Christmas. And she pops in and she's in a red dress and she's all curvy and hot and she says, Jake, I need you. And and he's got his feet up on his desk. It's a very Sam Spade, Maltese Falcon, like the detective noir and the femme fatale. And so I thought she was going to be having some nefarious intentions because of the setup. And
the setting in that first scene.
Yeah, and the way that Cynthia Eden has written his voice is very like 40s detective. He calls her sweets. Like you can just kind of picture this voice of this kind of pulp noir detective vibe, and he's got that very like gruff, I'm tough, masculine Marlboro man thing happening. But I love True, and I will put up a tree for her.
Yes, but then as it turns out, she's
just a lollipop, guys.
She's never breaks the rules. She's super nice. She's kind. Everything she does is like in the service of others. And yeah, somehow somebody's trying to kill her. So one thing I liked about the book, the meet cute and just like the inciting incident is just immediate. It's the very first sentence. She comes into his office. So we're not waiting around.
Yeah.
And what she says to him is, there's been these accidents, but they're really somebody trying to kill me and they're near misses. And I just know it's not an accident. And I went to the police and they told me, calm down, there's no evidence, but I need some help. I feel like somebody's watching me. Somebody pushed me in front of a bus. And she is a museum curator. She works at a museum.
She works at a museum.
And she just got this Egyptology traveling exhibit that she's setting up and trying to like revitalize the museum because she's moved back to her small hometown after living in Atlanta for some time, being married to some hotshot lawyer, and then he cheated on her, and so she divorced him and came back.
Yeah.
And so for the last year, she's been at this museum.
Yeah.
And somebody has knocked over like a museum column and tried to kill her. And
yeah, there's been a couple things. And then she said, there's stuff in my house and it's been moved around. And she's like, went to the police and no one believed her. They're like, oh, honey.
Yes.
Have you tried exercising?
Oh, this reminds me of the time when I got shingles, which is not pleasant. And I was talking to Annie about it. And I said, yeah, I went to the Mayo Clinic website, which is like reputable. I'm like, all right, what can I do about it? And one of the listed cures or treatments was to read a book to try to distract yourself.
Listen to music.
It's like, oh, great, thanks. That'll help a lot. That's basically what the police were doing to True.
Yeah. Have you tried listening to some pop music, ma'am?
So she comes to Jake's office and says, oh my God, please help me. Nobody will believe me. And he immediately was like, oh, hell yeah.
Girl, I've been waiting.
Because he wants to get in her pants. And he's had a crush on her since he was in high school.
He loves her.
And throughout the book, he's got this it's not really low self-esteem, because I don't think he has a problem with it, but he feels like, oh, she doesn't realize I'm actually a bad guy. I've killed people. I'm just a hunter. I like bounty hunting. She doesn't want to mess around with someone like me. She deserves better. And he has this low moment where he has to tell her, well, the reason I accepted you, I'm not a hero. I took on this case not because I necessarily believed you or I wanted to help you. I just wanted to get close to you.
And we're like, Jake, have you read any dark romances?
Yeah.
This is absolutely nothing in the scheme of any kind of behavior.
And she wasn't particularly upset by that.
No.
So they both are like insanely attracted to each other instantly.
I don't think I would be upset. I'd be like, okay.
Great, cool.
Thank you for taking my case on. No one else believed me. You are like a national hero and you're willing to help me.
I think this book would be nice if maybe you're in a reading slump and you've been trying to get into books that you are on your to be read list that you feel like you should like and that you should have the emotional and mental capacity to be able to just get through, but that's a bit too taxing for you.
Yeah.
And then you can just turn to something like this and it's
like
just such a
reality
breeze.
TV.
Yeah, it is. It's a reality TV show book.
Yeah, it's very light and fruity.
So just take it for what it is and it's enjoyable and
Yeah.
quick. I always feel good when I'm reading on my Kindle and I've just been there for a few minutes. I'm like, ooh, I'm already 7% done. Look at me, fast reader. Yeah, I don't know why I care. Nobody is asking. I don't keep track of these things, and it still makes me feel good when I'm reading quickly.
Track.
Yeah, somebody probably is.
So, for example, there's a cop because there's murder, as we said, and the cop is so happy because he's friends with the bounty hunter, and he's like, I can't believe it. He said, this is a Christmas miracle, except for the body. This is not a Christmas miracle. Oh, that is not a Christmas miracle. That is a Christmas homicide. And rest assured, I'll get to the bottom of it. So it's just like pretty silly.
Mm-hmm. We just talked about how it's lighthearted and campy. However, there is one section, and this is a trigger warning for folks, where she gets really sad and is crying about a somewhat recent miscarriage.
Yeah.
And then Jake is kind of, oh,
Goes,
she's sad. I'm going to give you a baby. I want to fix this for you. And I didn't personally appreciate having like an emotionally heavy moment in the middle of this lighthearted book. I mean, it was about a murder mystery. It wasn't like it was, maybe lighthearted is not the right way, but it just wasn't a serious book. So I don't like in any book when there is, the tone of the book changes suddenly and there's something that seems out of place. Because sometimes I will read very emotionally heavy books and I certainly would not appreciate a brief little interlude of campiness in there.
Yeah, that's true.
And in this case, I don't think, so it was showing him trying to help her, fix her, be willing to change who he is, to be a better person for her. So I can understand where that might belong.
I didn't ever question that from like the get-go.
Yes, he was obviously all in for her.
He carried a picture of her to war, like overseas while he's deployed. He always had a picture of her in his wallet. Mm-hmm. So he was
there were other ways to demonstrate that he was committed to her, and yeah. I just didn't really like it. That whole mention was for maybe 5 pages. It wasn't much of a part of the book.
If even that many. It was very brief, but it was definitely this moment. So
just look out for that.
Yeah, that's true.
I read some mysteries, not so many, but I was really noticing in this book, and I think this is true for most mystery and maybe even thriller subgenres within the romance genre, it's such a great subgenre to exist in because most of our romance books, we've got the love story as the plot. It's the driver of the whole story. Mm-hmm. And then you need each of the characters to have some kind of subplot going on so that there is some kind of tension and some kind of pressure and it moves the story forward.
Yeah.
And when you have a mystery like this, the subplot is already baked in. It is the whole story.
Right.
And so then the love story almost takes like a back seat to it because the mystery is the main plot, but yet it's still a love story, and that is still the main driving force between the characters. So I like the way those two interact, and I think there's something very particular about mystery that nails that.
Yeah.
And what this book did, I mean, it is a light book, and I'm not trying to read too much into the campy novella, but what Cynthia Eden did really well in this book is put those two plots together, because every part of the mystery that was unfolding, the way it was presented to the readers, was something that brought the two characters together. So even when she found the dead body, she turned to him for comfort.
He picked her up.
Right. And when she was afraid to go home to her house because she thinks she's being stalked, she goes to his house. So that's
one bed house.
That's the forced proximity part of their love story. And that when this is kind of weird, but she was at the museum and then she got like grabbed by somebody in a mask and shoved into a sarcophagus, which, but even that, he's the one that rescued her. She hugged him. Oh, I was thinking it was going to be you. So every element of the mystery was also serving to bring their love story closer together.
Yeah.
And I think that worked really well.
We should totally write a series about a bounty hunter. Bounty hunters, the untapped gold mine.
And what would be in this series?
Bounty hunting.
Okay. Okay. Great. Let's.
Bounties.
Sure. Let's add it to the list.
It's kind of like the Stephanie Plum series. Is that Skye Warren? No, I can't remember who wrote it. Maybe Skye Warren, but she's a bounty hunter or a detective, but I think she's a bounty hunter. And so each book is its own mystery, etc. And then there's all this, drama intrigue that revolves around it. And she has this one kind of overarching love interest that's on again, off again throughout. But a quick note, how you were talking about tone. And so the tone of the book is really campy. And then suddenly there's this very intense, dramatic introduction of this trauma of the miscarriage. And then it goes back. And it's also just the way it's written, too, is a different tone. And we recently read The Hunk Next Door. What was it called?
Right Next Door by Sophie Andrews.
So yeah, and so the whole book, the sex and their interaction is this really specific style, and then there's one scene where he just like face fucks her, and we're both of us later were like,
okay,
whoa, and then it goes back, and that was the only scene like that, and it was so not to compare the two things, but just
was
the
jarring.
Shift. Yeah, I was like,
was not expecting that.
Fit in with the rest.
I am pretty much game for reading just about anything as long as it meets my expectations. But when the tone shifts, I'm like, no, thank you.
I think that's the cardinal rule, right, with romance novels. Apart from that, is meeting an expectation. They have to have a happily ever after. And if people have a maybe, then people are not.
Oh no, that
happy.
doesn't go over well.
Yeah, and if it's a HFN, a happy for now, you got to warn people. But yeah, if there's no, like that book, The One, that's really fun to read, that recently came out, and she, the lead singer of a pop band called August Moon falls in love with this woman. She's a bit older, and they have this wonderful love affair, and will they or won't they, and then they get together against all odds, and then she's like, I must set you free for your life because I'm in my life. And I was like, man, I am too used to romance because that sucks. Keep that hot young man.
I think that's also the most important part of parenting as well. Just expectation management.
Oh, I was like, don't let him leave.
Any of these things will work. But in life, as long as your experience matches your expectations, at least for me, it hardly even matters what my experience is. Yeah. Whether it's good or bad, if I expected it, not such a problem. Yeah. But in romance, if we're reading something and it doesn't, this genre in particular promises particular beats and a type of ending. And if you don't deliver on that, it's not the genre, it's a different book.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, for most things in life, like I try not to have expectations. Like I can have desires or wants, and I can express them, but if I just expect things to be a way, then I'm gonna generally be disappointed. But I'm firmly rooted in my expectation of romance is delivering my HEA.
Fair enough.
Very good.
So we thought since this was a shorter book and we don't have that much to talk about on the book, that we could spend a little bit of time discussing our writing process.
Yeah. So Holly and I are writing a book. Holly, what the heck are we doing? We got to tell people it's kind of wild what's it about?
Okay, so this is a contemporary rom-com.
Male-female.
Male-female, rivals to lovers. It's set in San Francisco, which is the general part of the country that we live in. So we thought that would be fun. And in this book, there's a dating app founder who makes an app that promises to find one perfect match. And he gets paired with somebody that he ghosted.
Oh.
And so now they have to fake date to save face, and it goes about as well as you'd expect.
You can see how it's a very exciting potential. And it's been so fun. And this is actually why we started the podcast, is because we've been writing this book together. And we're reading so many books because they're fun. And we have expectations that we can meet so easily. But also kind of learn about what we're writing about.
Sure.
I've always read romance novels, but to write one too, it's like you got to fully experience all the different tropes, all the different writing styles, all the different subgenres. And then, oh my God, all we do is read romance novels. So we're like, we must tell the people, where are our friends?
Yeah, so Annie called me up and just said, hey, would you like to write a romance novel with me?
Pre-podcast.
Yes, this was a couple years ago. And I thought that was the most absurd question anyone had ever asked me.
Holly had never read a romance novel.
Yeah, I never read one, and then I don't write. I mean, I wrote a fair bit of like technical stuff in my career, but nothing fiction that somebody would want to read.
Holly is a mechanical engineer.
Yes.
So this was out of the blue because I'd been looking for someone to partner write this with, because I'm a writer, and I was like, I know I want to write a contemporary romance novel, and I kept thinking through who are all, potential people who have like qualities that would be a good fit, and I don't know, that we would have fun. And so many of my friends who are writers are very similar to me, and so we have same strengths and same challenges. And then one day Holly sent this really funny text, and I was like, oh, and the lights shine down.
Wow.
And so
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I did severely question your judgment when you asked me. It was like, everything about this idea is great, except something is wrong with Annie if she thinks that I would possibly be good at this. But then I said yes, because why not? It seemed like a challenge and fun. And so we were writing together. We don't know how to do that. We don't have a example. So we just are forging our own path.
Yeah, and I have written a book before. It's women's fiction, and it's contemporary. It's very leans towards playful, also set in San Francisco. Can you see a theme? And sexy but fun. But I had written it there's this terminology of called pantsing. So you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants. And let me tell you, for a person with ADHD, that is really fun at the beginning, and then you're in a dark chasm at the bottom of the ocean. So it took me years to finish this manuscript. It's finished now, patiently waiting in the metaphorical closet to go somewhere. But it was a harrowing experience to do it that way, but also I just wrote on intuition. I didn't know anything about writing at that point back then. I just kind of was like, I'm going to just do this thing. So a little bit arrogant thinking
Well, I think that's a very valid way that half of writers write.
Yeah.
That's a common way. You just kind of sit down and just whatever comes out, it just spills out on paper.
The first third did, and then I was like, oh my God, how do all the pieces of yarn go together?
Yeah, so then in contrast to that, what do they call it? There's pantsers and
plotters?
Plotter. That's it, plotter.
Is it?
Yeah, maybe we're wrong, but it's the opposite, where you kind of think of everything ahead of time and you get your outline written, and then you fill in the details after you've figured out start to finish what's going to happen. So you're not surprised as you write.
Yeah, that was the thing I was sad about with the last one, is I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, which is
you're your first reader.
Yeah, but it was when I was stuck, and more than that, I am such a flower that blooms around other flowers, and writing is so solitary, and so I enjoyed it, and I finished it, and I liked what I made, but it was also it could have been so much more fun. And so that is the fun of this is like, if I get stuck, there's this person with all these other ideas and another brain. And it's like, we're constantly kind of building it together instead of just, you know, this little like sad fish with the little lantern.
The anglerfish?
Yeah, at the bottom of the sea, like, oh, I'm my own light.
I think of those as scary, not sad, but
yeah, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that we are taking a very methodical approach.
Yes.
And we'll see where it goes. I think probably in an ideal world, there's some middle ground that might bring out the most creativity in people. But for us, especially since we're doing this together, I think we've felt that it's really necessary to lay a solid groundwork.
Yeah.
Because we do not, so when we're writing together, we're both physically together at the same time, writing at the same time. One of us has the keyboard and the other is just talking constantly at a faster rate than the person typing can type.
Yeah.
And so it's like, whoa, wait a second.
Like the cat meme.
Yeah, and it's a little stressful. So we both, there's like this game of chicken where we're both like, oh, are we going to write today? And neither of us say anything. And then one's like, okay, I guess I'll open up Scrivener. Or at least that's how it is on my end. So we have, we've created a template for each scene.
It's
and that,
such a cool template.
That took some time. That took some months.
Yeah.
But we list in there like everything for the scene. I mean, there's the events that happen in the scene, like the first X, then Y, then Z.
Yeah, like setting what the beat is, who's there, the characters, the plot, the themes, time of day. We have it all like choreographed day-wise. And this is why Hollie's mechanical engineer brain is so great, because big picture can start to get overwhelmed with like details and continuity. And so it's like
I like details.
Yes, she loves details. And so we have this scaffolding, and it makes it so easy to create within it, because it's like we built this really solid structure.
But it's not just those kind of facts. It's also, what are we trying to accomplish with the scene?
Yeah.
What is the character thinking?
What do we want people to feel right now?
Yes, what feeling are we trying to
this?
evoke in this scene? Kind of transitions in and out of the scenes.
Yeah.
What kind of themes or plot points are covered in this scene? So it helps us with things like foreshadowing.
Yeah.
We kind of are like, oh, well, we're going to say this here, and then let's come down to this scene 10 later. This is where we're going to, this is the punchline to this thing that we introduced.
Yeah, which is really nice, because in this first book that I wrote by myself, I didn't consider any of it. I just was honestly writing by intuition. So at the end, I was like, oh, there are themes, and I kind of had to pull them out of the mud together. And
what I find so interesting, and it catches me by surprise every time, is when we are writing and all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, that totally works. Like, that does link up to this thing we did before.
Yeah.
And all along, this was the point of it.
Oh my gosh, we're so smart.
And it's so weird. It's like these things just come out of thin air, because we will often have blanks. We'll just say, oh, in this scene, we want, by the end of it, for this character to have realized such and such, but we don't know how to get there. And it'll just be like an asterisk, we've got to figure this out still. And then sometimes it'll just pop up into thin air, and it's like neither one of us thought of it. It just was created from the book. It's so wild.
It's cool. Yeah, it's like it is its own natural magic. Like, we put these pieces in, and then it kind of unto itself continues to develop.
Yes.
In these really ways that we couldn't sit at the beginning and say this is exactly what's going to happen. Maybe some people can, but it's this mix of we have a system, but then there's so much creativity, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Right. It still has a life of its own.
But we put them onto the boat. It's like a sailboat.
Oh, yeah. Just push it off.
Yeah, you're going to end up, hopefully, at Hawaii is the vision. But we don't know the exact centimeters that you will traverse across the ocean.
So sometimes we're talking more big picture stuff. It's very much like, oh, when is going to be, are we going to have a third act breakup, and how's that going to happen? But sometimes it's real nitty gritty. We're in a scene, and it's how is the character going to get from at the start when they enter the room to over here, we want him to stumble into her bedroom so he can see, whatever.
Yeah.
So it kind of just goes back and forth. And yeah, usually we'll go down a bit of a rabbit hole, and then just keep pulling threads in a nitty gritty area of one scene, and then it opens up this big idea, and then we can take it back and go more big picture, and what scenes does this fit into, and how is this going to change?
So we did our whole first we built these pieces, which took a long ass time. It was a lot of work. And
we're busy ladies. We don't do this every day. We get it in when we can.
But it's a ton of work.
It takes a long time.
It takes a lot to like make all the pieces for other stuff to grow. So we built that, and then we fleshed out every one of these scene cards and made a full book. And now we're going back through the second draft, but it's bigger than a second draft. It's because it's like so many of the elements are there. So I'd say it's more third draft-esque, but there's not all the dialogue written in. And so we're going through and we're kind of like fine-tuning all the pieces and smoothing things out, but it's still, we don't have the exact dialogue written because some of the story's still unfolding. Mm-hmm. And also, as we've gone through, we've tightened up the story a lot because we're like, that's actually pretty, we don't want that part anymore, but oh my gosh, this thing can, what? We're going to do this thing. And so it's exciting.
You know what's really fun for me is when we get to a scene that we haven't been to in a while and I read it, I'm like, oh my God, this is great. Like, who thought of this?
I love this.
Yeah. You know, it's like, oh, high five us.
Hey.
So it's amazing. Like, I wrote it, or Annie wrote it, like we wrote it together. And it's completely left my brain at this point. So I just get to discover it anew.
Revel.
Is that just like a perimenopause bonus? Like you create something and you don't know, so you get to keep like reliving? I don't know. Maybe it is everyone.
Who can say?
My brain is not what it used to be.
That's why, hot tip, we put notes on everything. Because in the beginning we'd be like, we'll remember.
Yeah, we'll remember that.
There, and we'd be like, what is this? So now we have these detailed, like, you want to start right here. Here's why you were doing that. And that's this. And we'll come back and we'll go, oh, okay.
Yeah, we do have this running list. It's sort of like this stream of consciousness. It's like duck, 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 duck. Mm-hmm. And each day when we're done writing, we just say, this is where we stopped. This is where we're starting. This is what we're trying to do.
It's very helpful.
And I don't know what I would do without those notes to ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd forget. I know exactly what I do because I've done it before.
Yeah.
I'd flounder.
Yeah.
I'd repeat myself. I'd waste time.
I'd panic.
Mm-hmm.
So in the midst of all this, kind of around the end of the first draft, Hollie said, as she's listening to so many romance podcasts to research and study, she's like, we should make a video podcast because there's not really any about romance novels. And we read an insane amount of romance novels. And I was like, yeah.
Why not? Let's try it.
Let's try it. So that took a ton of work too to just build this thing and get this started. But now it's in motion and it's really fun. And as we talk about these more, it is really interesting to be writing a book and to be reading books and have kind of this dual perspective.
The different perspective is a lot of fun.
It is fun.
And sometimes actually I do totally just read without any brain power going on. And I'm not trying to decide, what do I like? What do I not like? How are they making this work? It's just like entertainment.
I'm a marshmallow when I read. I'm like,
But sometimes I really do like to read it with a perspective of, why did the author choose this? How would I do it? What's working? What's not?
Yeah, it's fun.
It's nice to have a couple of different options.
The podcast is good because I retroactively do that. But when I'm reading, it's like my brain just goes,
good for you.
Yeah.
It's an escape.
Like a horny person in a strip club. Just kidding. Is that a thing? No, that's not. Just like a common general
I don't think that's a phrase, but it's certainly a thing.
Yeah. They just go kind of like glassy-eyed.
Mm. Okay.
So.
Well, more research.
Maybe we'll cut that part. We'll see.
Okay, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us today.
A bounty hunter and a stripper.
Oh my God. It just writes itself. Yes. Okay. Next week we will be reviewing another holiday Christmas book.
Just because.
Because it's the season. So please come back to us.
Know some of the backstory of why we're doing this.
Yes. And goodbye, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. See you later. Happily ever after.